Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. My co-host, as always, Mr. Tate Mathews. Tate, welcome.
Good to see you, Coach Joins.
The dressed up
The weather changed.
Which means what?
Long sleeve shirts.
Oh, okay.
Button down.
Adidas doesn't make long sleeve shirts?
Not the kind I like.
Okay. Pullovers, though. You'll probably have a pullover.
Big pullover guy. Quarter zip guy.
And they have some great quarter zips.
Without a doubt.
No doubt.
I'll be breaking those out.
Yes, you will.
You know, today it was 48 when we got up, and then it got up to 70. Kind of hard to judge that. The pullover had to come off.
I understand. It's
You
a
like that?
fashion tip for you guys
There
out
you
there
go.
today. Tate, week 8, and I put on here as a little less action. Maybe it really, because 3 teams had byes, but we've had some weeks where a couple teams have had a bye, but it felt almost like an off week.
It did. Yep, it sure did.
Think fall break maybe had something to do with that?
I think it
Playing on
did.
Thursday.
Yep.
I think every game was on Thursday but one.
Fairview played Friday night.
That's right.
Right? They were the only ones. Yeah. No, it just kind of, and I tell you, and I know we'll get to it, but now I know why they don't really like playing on Thursday night. The Ravenwood CPA game, it just wasn't, usually Ravenwood brings more people than anybody
Right.
you'll ever schedule. It was just, I don't know.
You wanna play that game.
It didn't have that buzz.
You want to play that game on the road. Coach Kreisky and I talked about that this week, that, hey, since it was at Page, he was okay with Thursday.
Right.
Now, it turned out, it was okay for the Patriots in terms on the scoreboard, but in terms of the gate and that kind of thing,
gate.
like you said.
Right. And just the whole vibe around it. Just, it's Thursday night football. People got things to do. Got to get up in the morning. So.
Before we move on with football, we've got some other news, and now it's like postseason time. Mr. Clayton Williams wrapped up his career at Fairview, finishing tied for 10th at the state golf tournament. Day 1 through 13 holes, he was tied for 2nd.
Wow.
So obviously great run by Clayton. Been to the state 3 years, also won a region championship during his time. So obviously I know you'd like to congratulate Clayton too on a great career there at Fairview.
Congratulations, Clayton. Very proud of you.
Soccer district tournament starts this week. It'll be played at Independence. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, Independence hosted volleyball last week, district. They have soccer this week. They also host the basketball district tournament.
Mary Beth White's going to be busy
Yes, she is.
these last few months of 19, and then getting into what would that be, end of February or early March? Is that when district tournament is?
Maybe just get it all over at once, though.
That's right.
It means they won't have these things now for...
She'll be good for what, 4 years, 5 years?
And then I'm sure it'll start back up. District soccer, as I mentioned, at Independence, Brentwood's #1 seed coming in, Ravenwood 2. Volleyball last week, congratulations to Fairview. They finished as district runner-up to Camden, lost in 5 sets. And if I'm not mistaken, that may be 5 straight for Camden.
Well, I know on that level, they're really good at volleyball. So, but Fairview, you can tell each year they're closing the gap.
They definitely are. Nolensville, 3rd straight district title. And here's something I thought was really interesting. I was talking to Coach Hudson out there and Coach Ladd. Coach Ladd's daughter plays on that team. Yes. The night I was there, which was the district championship, they beat Lawrence County 3 sets to 1. It was the first set they lost to a district opponent in 3 years. That's like Brentwood-esque.
Yes.
In terms of dominance.
Yes. Very proud of them. Brentwood's in a little bit tougher district.
They are, but in terms of dominance.
And Brett Young's first year as the head coach came up from Mill Creek, so congratulations.
Great way to start.
That's right.
Brentwood defeated Ravenwood 3-1 for the district title. That's 7 straight now for the Bruins. Obviously, they're vying for that 7th straight state title as well. Brentwood, and they seem to do this, happened both times against Ravenwood. So Ravenwood wins the first set, and they're up 18-15 in set 2. But Brentwood, they're just hard to knock off.
It comes, it's human nature. It's in the back of your mind. I remember the golfers used to talk about it when they'd have a lead on Tiger, but he was close on Sundays. And
that's a great analogy.
Knowing he was coming,
that's a great
it can't
analogy.
help but creep in your mind.
It has to.
So,
cross country as the season's winding down. Congratulations, Brentwood's girls and boys, both winners of the MSCCA championship. Don't ask me what that stands for. There was a mid-state meet also that Nolensville boys finished 2nd, the girls 3rd. Independence girls were runner-up. And then this one, I promise I'm not making this up. The Franklin boys were champions and the girls fourth at a race in Decatur, Alabama called Do It on the Trails. DEW, I'm assuming.
Mountain Dew?
I didn't know they were into cross country, but
I didn't either.
maybe we should just leave it at that. But
Do it on the trail.
Do it on the great
Sounds
name.
like something you'd say something to a deer or something. Hey, back to volleyball. A few years ago, Brentwood and Ravenwood played in the state championship. I think we might be on that crash
I
course.
think so too. I do.
That'd be awesome.
It would be great. It would be great. All right, let's move to football. Game recaps week 8. We'll start with the WCTV game of the week. And before we start talking about that, let's go right into the WCTV play of the week.
Entering the red zone, see what their play calling is here, Mike.
Again, Johnson on, well,
Good
nope,
play
Cade
fake.
will keep it. Walker takes it and finds a little breathing room, and will he carry defenders
I think he got
over
it.
the end zone, and Walker will score. Touchdown, Patriots. Walker will not be denied as he tiptoed the sidelines and dragged a couple of Centennial defenders in the end zone with him.
So Johnson picking up that chip block. Townsville here on defense had him stopped, goes for the rip, tries to strip the ball loose, and as you see, he failed to do that, and that gave Walker momentum to keep the pile going.
Mr. Cade Walker, we talk about him every week. 102 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. There was 20 of them, and one of the touchdowns he drugged. The most impressive thing about that, he drugged 4 or 5 guys into the end zone. He looked like Bubba Johnson. I had to take a double check. Bubba's play fake was so good. He also had 103 passing yards and a touchdown. So, I don't really know what to say other than the kid's a gamer, man. I mean, he is a dual threat quarterback.
You know, Paige, and we talked about that. We thought that both teams could be a little hungover, so to speak, after those games the previous week. But Paige came out obviously ready to play, up 21-0 at the half. After that, really, Centennial couldn't get back in the game. They did make it closer in the second half behind Alex Steele. We keep saying that name, 88 yards on 9 carries and a touchdown. And one thing I did want to mention, because I know a lot of times I focus on the offensive guys, but Paige, and I know you do a good job of talking about the defenders, but Nick Hurd, 6 tackles, an interception, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. Colby Burns, 9 tackles for Paige. So
strong.
Coach Rathbone talked a lot about the defense after the game, so I know he was pleased with the way they played.
Well, Centennial, even though their record might not be, they don't have a whole lot of wins compared to losses, but even in all those losses, they score points, and they're a potent offense. They got a lot of guys that can score from, if you give them a crease, they can take it to the house. So, yeah, I mean, holding Centennial to 14 points, I'd say you got to be very pleased with that if you're Coach Rathbone. And you mentioned both Colby and Nick, but when you have 6 tackles, an interception, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery, what does that mean? It means you were around the ball a lot. Now, either they were going right at him, I don't think they are, or he was getting to the ball. That's pretty cool.
Fairview 43, Harpeth 7. No surprise there. Nardozzi obviously had a big night. Brody Cox, Anakin King, Joey Mathis all getting rushing touchdowns. Another big night for the Yellow Jackets. They're on cruise control about now, right?
Yep. And you like to see that because that's how that game should have gone. So they went over there and they took care of business. They were able to get home early. Coach Hughes was able to get to snappies before it closed with that running clock. And Nardozzi now, he broke 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns last week. Now he's up to 13. He had 3 more touchdowns Friday night and, 143 yards. So now he's sitting here at 13 touchdowns, 8 games? So, you asked a couple of weeks ago about Mr. Football. He's got to be – he finishes the season off the way it's gone so far. I think he's got to be in that conversation.
He definitely has a chance, and I think no surprise to either one of us, he shows up as a finalist.
Yes.
Nolensville, 51, Glencliff, 6. Nolensville, and I had to do a double take on this one. They were up 14-0 after 30 seconds, 34-zip at the end of the first quarter, 48-0 at the half. Gallardi, it's a pretty efficient night. 3 for 3, 3 touchdown passes to Dobson, Colton Dobson, Parker Price, Tim Kutris, our boy Samson Johnson, 2 rushing TDs. And did you see what Nolensville did late in the game?
Yes.
Talk about that. I thought that was a total class act.
Well, Glencliff scored a touchdown.
To make it 51-6.
Make it 51-6. There's a flag on the play. It's against the Colts. Did you know they're the?
Yes.
Yeah, you knew that because of basketball. It's against the Colts. They got to bring it back. Coach Paul Derrick. The Nolensville crowd was clapping, cheering for the boys. And I've heard some people criticize it. I don't think it was poor sportsmanship at all. I thought
I don't think so
I thought
either.
they were supporting those kids. It's well publicized about what's going on, them going to have a team, not going to have a team. I thought it was a first-class move by the fans. I thought that, we've been at youth games before where,
Yep.
it's getting ugly. We've been on the other side of it, and they finally score a basket. I cheer for them.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to show them.
Well, I think the people there would know the difference. If
Yes.
it was in a mocking kind of way,
I don't think
they wouldn't be
Glencliff-
writing about it in the paper.
I don't think they talked to the Glencliff people at all. Glencliff didn't take it that way. They were
No.
appreciative. So, and they don't play in front of a whole lot of big crowds. So, anyways, Coach Derrick declines the penalty. Touchdown stands. 6 points. They don't get shut out. Crowd cheers again. I thought it was first class, man. A lot of people like to talk about the scoreboard doesn't define you. Well, I'd say it doesn't define Paul Derrick because he could have had that third goose egg on the year, but he did the right thing, and I thought it was first class without a doubt.
And let's face it, they probably could have scored 100 points.
Well,
34 at the end of the half, or the first quarter. 34 in one quarter.
well, Gallardi's 3 for 3. I mean, that's 3 touchdowns. So,
It's like Tecmo Bowl.
Tecmo Bowl.
Playing with Bo
Bo
Jackson.
Jackson, student body right, is that what it was? God, it was awesome. Walter Payton was good too. But no, I thought that was, without a doubt, I thought it was very cool. And you hate to see that over there. They got a lot of work to do.
They do.
You remember when you first moved down here, and I mean Metro was, or when Jim Wilson was at Glencliff, they went to the Clinic Bowl one year.
Which is not that long ago.
No. So, but you know what I thought was pretty cool? I was not a whole lot to talk about in that game, but our man Samson Johnson back. So since he didn't score 2 weeks ago, he scored 2.
That's right. He's on pace.
He's on pace.
Has he had any other multi-touchdown games, or is that the only
I
one?
thought earlier in the year he had a receiving and a.
So he may be +1.
He could be +1.
We'll have to go check that.
Hey, Ryder Gallardi on the season, 71 of 113. Here's, and I'm glad you said it about. He only threw 3 passes on Thursday night, right? They played Thursday
night.
7 for 113, 1,013 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And I know of at least 2 games he's only played one half.
Incredible. We talk about, I know we talk about Garcia a lot. We talk about Walker a lot. We talk about Granzow a lot. We talk about Ethan, and we should. But I'm telling you, that guy's a little under the radar, in my opinion.
I have never seen, and there's been a lot of good ones, I've never seen this many good quarterbacks. And obviously, Anakin King's turning into a really good quarterback. I've never seen this many quarterbacks at one time in Williamson County at the same time. So
It's impressive.
And Kutras, he got 7 TDs, 6 interceptions on the year.
Incredible.
Again, he's not playing the whole half. Samson Johnson, 5 touchdowns. Ryan Pistulka, 6 touchdowns. Balance.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Nolensville when we talk about our games this week. That schedule gets really tough.
Oh, yeah, it's getting real pretty soon.
It is. We have obviously the non-league game against Franklin will be no easy contest there. All right, let's move on here. A game that you attended, Ravenwood 24, CPA 7. Now, listen, I did not double-check my stats, but you tell me if this is correct. CPA held to under 50 yards rushing?
Yes.
That's accurate, right? Mm-hmm. A great performance by Ravenwood, because that's a team that runs the ball pretty well.
Well, that was one of the things, very impressive. That front 7, that's the first time I've seen them up live and in person. They're impressive.
Did they have a different, of course you didn't watch them, you hadn't watched them live, but my thoughts were they're kind of on a mission. Did they look like that to you? They have that look about them, or maybe you couldn't compare.
They played hard, so yeah. I mean, they played hard. They were flying around the ball. That was one thing we talked about was, even when they did, and I think this is going to help them come playoff time. But even when they did make mistakes, they're all so fast. They recover so quickly, and they're all flying around to the ball. So, on that Avery Miller, who we know a lot about in the back end, he's a heck of a player, and they're physical. Junior Colson, that's the first time I'd really seen him. Golly, he's an athlete who can run. Brian Rice, we know about him. But yeah, the couple of things that jumped out to me on the defense is, 1, they played hard, and 2, they recover quickly. So, Especially
Speed
in high
kills.
school. Speed kills. especially in high
Raptor
school
fast, so
football.
to speak.
Raptor fast. That's for their offense, but yeah, maybe they can take it over to the defense too. And I tell you something else that I thought was really cool was Graham Barton, who we talk about so much, left tackle going to Duke.
He's got the look, doesn't he?
Oh, geez. And so I saw him snapping in warm-ups. The snaps didn't look real good. I'm thinking, what's going on over here? Anyways, he's a little nicked up. They put him at center. And come game time, there were no bad snaps. And, so it just goes to show what an athlete is. He came in and, pretty much nothing was coming through the middle with him there. And he's just fun to watch, man. I love that kid. And then Garcia, 197 yards, 3 touchdowns, 54 rushing. The only thing I would tell him, and I told his dad this, but Ryan Elledge, the quarterback CPA the last 3 years, hey, man, we all know you're tough. We don't need you running over people, flipping over people. We know it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you love about him.
Yeah.
But we got to have you, brother.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's best just to go down. But what a competitor he is.
No, he is. 2 of those touchdown passes that you mentioned to Ross Johnson, 1 to Tony Rice. You love talking about the kickers, right? Luke Akers, 45-yard field goal make. In high school, I mean, that's pretty good leg now, 45 yards.
Well, and his story, he's only been doing it, I guess, 2 years now. He also had a punt that he pinned down inside the 5, maybe inside the 2.
But he's been around
He's been around.
a kicker.
Yeah, I think he's a better punter than he is field goal kicker. And he's big, man. Yeah, he's a dude.
No, he's got
UCLA's
great
getting a good
size.
one.
They are. Moving on, Summit 56, Franklin County 21, and I know this brings a smile to Coach Coleman's face. I know he's watching. 8 rushing touchdowns.
Pretty big. 35 points in the first half.
Wow.
389 rushing yards. Now, obviously, they had to play a little bit differently. Brady Pierce at the quarterback. They went back to the wing T, Coach. Wing T. I don't think Franklin County was ready for that. They went back to the wing T, 3 for 3. Eric Coleman was like Eric Coleman a pass. But Brady Pierce, first start as a quarterback, gets the win. 3 for 3 passing, 75 yards. He's also the punter, had a 43-yard punt, his 1 attempt. Trey Hunter, 12 rushes, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. The wing T live in effect. Now, here's the question. Is he going to be able to get that out of his system when Mr. Wade comes back? Because it was pretty successful.
I think he goes back. He goes back.
He does. I'm being
Summit, 389 of their 465.
389.
Did you see what they had per rush?
It was just under 10 yards.
I mean, so.
It was a first down and carry. Hey, but you know what the coolest thing about this is? And you know it from basketball. Shelbyville won, but especially come playoff time now, you got to work on both those things now.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially if they're willing to, which I'm sure he is, willing to change it up to make an adjustment.
Well, and they ran it, last year, so Destin knows the offense, knows how to run it, but every minute that you spend working on the wing T is time that you could be working on something else. So, yeah, I think it really helps them come playoff time. And then also come bad weather, we can always go right back to it. And it's not like we haven't run it all year long.
Trey Hunter, Keaton Wade, both of those guys had a couple of touchdowns apiece. Jacqueline Cotton, hope I said that right. Andrew Pierce, Brandon King also added touchdowns for Old Sparty.
That's always a fun night.
That's a great night, especially considering what they've got coming up. All right, let's talk. Speaking of which, let's talk about what we have coming up. This week's games, buys to Centennial and Fairview. Our WCTV game of the week, Brentwood, throw out the records, at Franklin.
You got any gems for me?
Listen, Tate, we have lots of gems. This is since 2001.
This is impressive.
This is since 2001. Brentwood leads the series 14-9. What I thought that really stood out is they've played 5 times in the playoffs. Brentwood leads that 3-2. But in 2002, when Brentwood won the state championship, right, Coach Crawford's first year, Franklin had 2 losses that year, both to Brentwood.
I believe it.
You fast forward to 2000, what did we say it was when the final for Franklin? 4, right? Franklin beats Brentwood 14-7 in the playoffs, the second round. They take it all the way to the championship game. Brentwood had won earlier in the year, 17-16. So in both of those cases, the loser of those games were probably thinking, we can make it all the way, and it proved out to be that way for the winner of those games in the playoffs. Now here's something that I also thought was interesting. Obviously, Coach Crawford's had 2 different terms as head coach.
Right.
11-7 overall in the series. Coach Webb 4-3, and
That surprised me. That's awesome.
I'll bring this up in the coaches show. They're 2-2 head to head.
That'll be a great coaches show. Seriously.
I just float up a question and then just sit there and.
Hopefully, Coach Webb's not as excited as he is at game day. No, that's cool. And man, we've talked about it for years, but those two they have so much history together and so much respect between both of them.
They do.
So I think they've both been in so many big games. I think that right there goes to show you too. Coach Webb's 2-2. That just goes to show you that you can throw the records out, because in the last few years, Brentwood has had the way better overall regular season record, and for him to get two wins against them, that goes to show that is a true rivalry, and you better show up to play or you're going to be in trouble.
You know what I like about this game? We talked about this before we came on air. Both teams had a bye last week, so it really should make for rested, healed up teams. It should be a great game.
Without a doubt. And now talking about a little bit change of pace, the first 5 games that you'll have on tape, 4 games that you'll have on tape of Franklin, Guy Lipscomb's at quarterback. Now he goes back to running back. Nichols comes back, and holy smokes, he's been tearing it up as tailback. And Nichols has been playing really well, both in the passing and the running. So it gives Brentwood a little bit to work on. I think this is going to be a fun game.
Independence 5-2, going to Dixon County 1-6. Tate, Dixon's been outscored 154-13 in region games. That's an average score of 51-4.
That's tough. I hate it for him, man.
And Indy also coming off a bye week. They've got a big finish. They'll be ready to go.
They're coming off a bye week and a loss, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They're not in a real good mood.
No, they're not.
And man, I was looking at stats. You were talking about all the quarterbacks. Every time I think, well, this one's the best one. This one's the best one. I'm telling you, man, Ethan Cash might be the best one. I mean, he's had a big year.
And Coach Blade loves that guy.
Loves him.
Which tells me a lot.
And he puts the ball in his hand. He knows he's gonna lead us. And anytime he's got the ball in his hand, we got a chance. And he lets him do it.
Nolensville 7-0, 3-0 in the region versus Maplewood 3-5, 2-1 in the league. It's senior night for the Knights, and I didn't know if you realized this, and it seems like they have been playing at home every week. 6 of their 8 games, counting this week, have been at home. Maplewood, and you know this because you talk about this on your show, they've played a tough schedule.
Yeah.
Their losses are to Hillsboro, East Nashville, Pearl Cone, Marshall County, Mount Juliet. So don't let that 3-5 record confuse you.
No, not at all. I will say, yeah, they've played a very tough schedule. All those guys that you mentioned are really good, especially Pearl Cone, Hillsboro. But the Knights better show up and play. But Maplewood, due to graduation, there's no Bobo Hodges anymore.
Thank goodness for Nolensville.
You ain't kidding. They're not quite as athletic as they've been.
You know, Nolensville, too, 7-0, and take nothing away from their record, but they don't have Glencliff on the schedule the rest of the way out. They finish up Maplewood at home, at Franklin, at Marshall County. We're going to find out a lot about Nolensville in these next 3 weeks.
Without a doubt.
And I think they'll stand up to the test. I'm not saying they're not going to win those games.
Oh, they're ready.
But it's going to be tough tests.
Need to get this one for multiple reasons, but number one, it's a region, and then they'll be going into the Marshall County game. Got a chance to be undefeated in the region, first place in the playoffs in the seeding, and that would be big for the Knights.
Page 6-1, 2-0 in the league. At Columbia 5-2, 2-1. This is a big one.
Yes.
To me, not that Columbia's been that up and down, but I think Columbia's one of those teams, and I talked to Coach Coleman about this. You watch them on film, it scares you because you think if they play the best they can play, we're going to have a tough time winning.
Yeah, and all of them in that region that have played them have said that. They all say the same thing. They're scary. They scare me a lot because they've got guys that can make big plays. So, could this? You were speaking of a letdown. Summit, then Centennial. Page played a tough schedule, had some big wins over some county rivals. So I don't think they will, but yeah, this game's got a lot of riding on it, especially with that Summit Shelbyville game. Page wins this one, it's over. And with who they match up with in the playoffs, you want to be the number 1 seed.
No question. Let's stay in that region. Summit, 7-1, 2-1 in the league. At Shelbyville, 6-1, 1-1. Another huge game, obviously, for region standings. We expect to see Destin Wade back at quarterback. You know, one thing for Summit, I'm not trying to jinx them at all, but they've had no breaks.
None.
And so you hope that's not a factor this week, but playing on the road, you know, Destin hadn't been playing. I mean, it really sets up as, I wouldn't call it a trap game, but as a game that's going to be pretty tough for some.
It's going to be a tough game. You got to remember, go back. Last play of the game, it took 3 times because of flags, but they almost beat Page. Shelbyville's good. I forget his first name, Cunningham. They've got a quarterback at Cunningham who's a dual threat guy who you better know where he is at all time or he's going to beat you. So this is a big game, tough game. Who knows about Destin, but this is for second place. And like we said, you don't want to be on the road in the playoffs with, what is that region? The Beach, Hillsborough region.
That will be tough.
Tough.
That first round game.
For some reason, those guys don't want to come to us. Yeah.
Ravenwood, 6-1, obviously stepping outside the league versus Smyrna. Now, this is no disrespect to the Bulldogs, but they might be one of the weaker 4-3 teams.
Yeah. Well, you look at their
Now, they did beat Riverdale.
They did beat
That's
Riverdale.
a good win.
Yeah, it is a good win. Man, I think Ravenwood's back. I think Ravenwood won. I think Brentwood is like what we knew, one of the better teams in 6A. I think it came after the Pulaski Academy. I think Ravenwood is playing at a high level right now. Smyrna's in trouble.
And the return of Matty D. I know
Matty
Ravenwood
D's back.
Raptor Nation's excited about that. All right, Tate, let's go to Pick'ems.
Oh.
Favorite part of the show here. You and I still 44-10, both went 5-0 last week, as did the fans. The fans are still 2 games ahead of us, 46-8. Dr. Qualls admittedly had to try to pick a game a little different than the rest of us. He picked Centennial to beat Page. Obviously, he was wrong. 41-13. He's now 3 games behind us, 5 games.
Are we going to
behind
bring
the
him
fans.
in like at the end of the year?
Playoff time. He's already made a request. And keep going on Twitter. Fans doing a great job of this. WCS CO Athletics to cast your vote each week, so to speak. All right, here we go. You pick first.
Okay.
Because I got a feeling now we've got 1, 2, 3, 6 games. I got a feeling we're going to pick a few different. Because you want to step out and try to get ahead of me a little bit.
Yeah, we're tied though.
Right.
You got to step out for me too.
Brentwood at Franklin. Who you got?
I loved your joins, Jim's. I think this, maybe from the outside looking in, most people think it's a no-brainer, Brentwood. I don't think it is. Brentwood, I just think with Cade, like we talked about, when you need a first down, when you need a play, I think Cade Granzow is that guy. And I think they're just playing really, really well right now. So I think it's closer than what people think, but I go with the Brentwood Bruins.
Tate, I have to agree with you. I'm going with Brentwood also. I'm not sure what the spread is, what the pundits will set the spread as, but whatever it is, I don't think Brentwood will cover. I think it's a close game that goes down to the wire, but I am also going with the Bruins. Oh, no, not this again today. Next game, Independence at Dixon. He's back.
You ever heard of Tim's Ford Lake? Scott Blade. One of Scott Blade's favorite things to do on the weekend is take his girls and his wife down to Tim's Ford and get on his runabout. Boat race city.
Tate, I have to agree. And by the way, I reminded you, this is a family show. No corncob pipes, even though it's empty.
Ethan Cash is eating Orville Redenbachers in the third quarter.
I'm going to obviously agree with you. Independence rolls in this game. Nolensville versus Maplewood at Maplewood. I'll pick first. I'm going Nolensville.
You notice I've kept my boat captain hat on.
Oh,
Nolensville. Boat race.
wow. I'm not sure I'm going to agree with that, but
Boat race.
okay, great. Page at Columbia. What say you, Tate?
I know we got to go different, but this one, I don't think there's any chance. I think Page wins. Cade Walker has another big night. Bubba Johnson, another big night. Coach Rathbone and the Patriots are rolling.
Page. I agree. Page. Ravenwood at Smyrna. I think we both are going to agree. I'm going Ravenwood.
Yeah.
You are going.
Ravenwood, yes.
We're getting that hat back on for this one,
I don't know about the hat. Definitely Orville Redenbacher time.
which is.
Popcorn City.
All right, our final game. So we haven't been different.
You go
Summit
first.
at Shelbyville.
You go first.
Hey, listen, Old Sparty, I told you, I'll be picking you the rest of the year. So unless you win the whole thing, we'll be on the same page because I am going to pick Summit from this point forward just because I picked them to lose twice and they haven't.
Old Sparty.
I'm going with Summit.
I didn't think about that. I promised Independence I wouldn't pick them anymore. That might be bad news. No, not even I can mess that up for Independence. I'm going Shelbyville.
Do you really believe that or are we just different? Now, we're putting Shelbyville.
Yeah, I do believe it. But I think Summit goes farther in the playoffs.
Nice recovery. Tate, oh,
You don't
Captain.
have to send me any hateful texts, Coach Kirby, Coach Coleman.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. Great to see you this week.
Hey, I'll see you at Tim's Ford.
We'll see you next time on Sports Connection.